The Houston Cougars had to remind everyone that they are the Houston Cougars. They win the Big 12 semifinal game by a score of 74-54 over one of the hottest teams in the country. Like we said, coming into this preview, or into this game, Subi, this was a matchup of two teams who are top five in active longest win streaks currently. Houston now sits at 12 in their current win streak, and we felt good about BYU coming into this game. To quote one of my favorite rappers, Meek Mill, there's levels to this ish. Houston showed their level in this basketball game without an all Big 12 guy in Juwan Roberts, by the way, who sat out this game as a precautionary measure. They put belt directly to BYU Cougar backside. They got out to a 15-0 lead in this game before BYU could even collect their thoughts. Emmanuel Sharp was incredible in this game. LJ Cryer was really good as well. Houston did the Houston things defensively. That's my opening statement. Subi, I'll throw it over to you to dive into it a little more. Get your initial thoughts on this game.
Yeah, I think initially, I'll say this, Cart. I'm not ashamed or embarrassed by picking BYU when we
Mm,
did, because it was impossible to ignore what they were doing. And you can say, if you're a Houston fan, or for us, we can say like maybe we underestimated Houston, which seems impossible, but maybe we did, because they were unbelievable, man, to the point where you just say to yourself, "Oh, man, I'm not embarrassed or upset that I picked BYU," but you're like, what was my thought process again? Because this Houston team has shown all season that they're more than elite. They are truly the cream of the crop, and they shut us up, Cart. Like, really, they shut us up good and proper. I think going into the game here, though, what really stood out to me and was a bit staggering is that Houston took almost as many threes as BYU
yeah.
and hit it at a better clip. I did not think that would happen, and maybe it's because it's the level of play from Houston
Mhm.
that I'm so accustomed to. Maybe I have a great admiration and respect for Kelvin Sampson, but I've mentioned in some of these previews and recaps about the abnormality, right? About like Colorado going on a 15-0 run, or some other nonsense like Dewan Harris. Sorry, no offense, Dewan Harris going 4-4 from three. Like, come on, give me a break.
Right.
This was still pretty dang unbelievable, but at the same time, you're just like, they're a well-oiled machine. But to me, Cart, that's a lot of talk to say that I did not forecast or foresee Houston taking nearly as many threes and shooting it at a better rate than BYU.
Yeah, and honestly, the thing with the threes is it was truly a credit to Houston. It's just like it's got to be so frustrating to play this team, truly, because like BYU wanted to shoot more threes. They couldn't because they were everywhere. The length, the athleticism. It was just they were smothering the ball screens. How they would double and get back to their man and jab at the other. It was a truly special performance. And look, we'll talk more about BYU and what this game means and things like that. I'm gonna go ahead and make a statement that I feel really good about, and I think everyone else should take it as kind of like heeding a warning here. If Houston is going to shoot threes like this, they are winning it all.
Mhm.
They are winning it all, and that means, and that's against anybody too, by the way. Like Duke, line them up. Auburn, line them up as well. If they are going to shoot and make threes at this clip, it's over. Send them to San Antonio, line up whoever. They will be my national title pick. Now that's not how the game of basketball works, right? This isn't typical Houston with this, but I think it was it Frashilla who was on the play-by-play call? Who was on the play-by-play? I don't I
I
don't
th-
think it was Fran.
was it not Fran?
It might have been Fran. No, Fran does. It was Fran because I remember him talking about
Him and Boog, I thought,
yeah,
right?
about Houston's recruiting class, which also, by the way, talking about 2-year plans, they got a bunch of five-star killers coming in next year. Sick. But Emmanuel Sharp had like these injury things that were nagging him. He's starting to look healthier. LJ Cryer's now knocking out. Milos is getting into like his form. Malik Wilson has turned into like this like Swiss Army knife, like extendo arms guys. He's like 6'5", but he can scratch his knees without bending over. He's like a freak of nature how long his arms are. Tugler's a freak of nature. this Houston team is just a well-oiled, well-coached machine. And they did this without Juwan Roberts, by the way. I know I already said that, but like they literally did this without one of their best players, and they handled business in this one. Do you want to get some more Houston love off before we move over to BYU?
No, I think Houston was just absolutely positively tremendous, really. So from the BYU side, I thought they did hang tough on the boards, and that's actually something that I previewed. And I
Mhm.
said they were going to have their best rebounding game of the season. I thought they did enough in that metric. Like it's not easy to hang tough with Houston on the boards. But to your point about Houston, right? Like it's not exactly how the game's played, right? You never know what's going to happen night in and night out.
Yeah.
I said going into this game, I was like, at this point, the way BYU is playing, you just kind of got to hope for a cold night. And I do credit Houston. You have to credit Houston just like as a baseline
Hmm.
because of how great they've shown to play that side of the basketball the last like couple seasons.
Yeah.
But there's also a little bit of me that's just like maybe BYU got a little cold, and that's what you need, right?
Yeah.
So any other team or majority of the country when they play BYU and they go cold, it's a dogfight or it's you might win by a couple.
Hmm.
You go cold against Houston, you see the
Over.
final result,
Right.
right?
You go cold against Houston, and then Houston shoots hot,
Yeah.
respectively. Like honestly, good on them for only losing by 20. They should have lost by 50.
That's a glass half full type of approach. But I'll also credit Houston. They got to the line a little bit more.
Mhm.
You can talk about the officials and the officiating. I'm not here to speculate on that. I thought just Houston's was a more physical team, but they got to the line a little bit more. But again, Cart, if we go back to BYU and personnel, Yegor Demon, he wasn't good, man. He
Yeah.
had 5 turnovers and 6 points. Technically, he reached the criteria when I said he can't have more turnovers than points.
Mhm.
He came close though, man.
Yeah.
And Houston did what I think a lot of teams should be doing, and that's make him a shooter. He
Yes.
7 out of his 9 shots were threes, and he went 1 of 7.
Right. Yeah. And look, I don't want to make like rash judgments about it, but if I've seen this story even in the game against Iowa State that they won, the first one that was at Hilton. Coach Young might have to make some tough decisions with Yegor being on the floor against teams that are this physical because he cannot take care of the basketball. He is visibly looking at him. He is thrown off by the pressure. He can't handle it, and it's hurting the team. And he's making these passes that just aren't getting there. And I to your point about the shooting on this, and this like we said, we already gave the praise to Houston. This isn't a takeaway from Houston whatsoever. BYU is a much better shooting team than 6 of 28 from three. That's not. I talked about this in the Big Ten game when I did the preview for the Wisconsin and the Michigan State game. In the first matchup in that game, Wisconsin shot like 4 for 29, like 12% from three. Right. In the first game of the Big Ten tournament, Wisconsin made 18 threes against UCLA. I'm not expecting them to do that again, but like an off shooting night for a good shooting basketball team should be like 30%, right? Not 15, not 21%. Yeah, that's a putrid shooting night, and you can't have a putrid shooting night. And look, these guys are good these guys are good shooters. Okay, like Nell not making a three, Hall not making a three, Trey Stewart was 1 for 4. Yegor was 1 for 7. Richie Saunders was 2 for 5. He hit his two like in the first like 5 minutes of the game. He couldn't get hit another one after that. I would much rather bet on those guys actually making some threes, like you said. But if they do it against an opponent of this caliber, lucky for them, if they meet an opponent of this caliber, it's probably pretty late in the tournament, so you feel good about it. But I will give a little mini banner that I feel good that they at least they tried to fight back in this basketball game. They cut it to 13 in the second half, and they were feeling good about themselves. And then Emmanuel Sharp said, "Yeah, here's two 30-footers. Let's go ahead and bring this back to 20 and feel good about ourselves." Oh, I think you muted yourself, Subi.
My bad. I think that's the operative phrase that you had mentioned, though, Cart. It's that if they're going to have this performance, or if they play against a team like Houston, it's going to be pretty deep.
Right.
So, right. So I'm wrestling with. I'm trying to find this middle ground here. BYU, I'm not writing them off.
Mm,
I'm not saying they can't get to San Antonio just because of this performance. I just think it elevates what I probably already should have thought about Houston. You mentioned the levels, but it does answer this. And I feel like Cart in college basketball, we throw out phrases and we say things that sound sexy, but I don't know how true they are.
mhm,
And when BYU was on this run, people are like, and I said it too, because I believed it. And that's why I picked them over Houston. But I said, and a lot of people said, they can beat anyone in the country the way they're playing right now. That's not true. Okay. Like, it's not. Houston's held them to 50 some odd points the last two times out, or
yeah.
twice at least in the season. It's not true. Um, at least you can't be you. We know pretty unequivocally that you have a tough time. Let's call it that. You have a tough time against Houston,
Mhm.
and Houston's one of the top echelon teams. But Kibakeda, if he's going to be your leading scorer, that's just not going to work. Again, I think it was a combination. Probably I'd lean a little bit more to it just being a tough shooting night for BYU. And at the end of the day, really, when you come into this, one of these guys has to lose, right?
Yeah. Right.
At some point, BYU, I don't think anyone thought BYU was going to run the table.
Right.
Maybe you did,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's getting to a point now where folks have to run the table if you're going to be in the tournament. But if you're going to bow out, there's absolutely no shame in losing to this amazing Houston team. So I'll say that for BYU. I'm not writing them off whatsoever. They're still a threat. It doesn't change my opinion that much. Just got to see, what happens in the future. Let me ask you this though, Cart. LJ Cryer, super solid, not incredibly efficient.
Mhm.
Did shoot pretty well from three. My only question is, do you know? Like, I'm not asking because I have the answer. Do you know what his winning percentage is in college? All that guy does is win college
Yeah.
basketball games.
I'm guessing here. I feel like and he's played what? This is his fifth year, I think. I think he's. It might be his fifth year, either fourth year. I'm not sure what it is. He has probably the most games he's lost in a season. I would think is no larger than six.
That's insane, man.
That's like he is like it's ridiculous. That dude wins a national title, goes to Houston. It could win a national title for Houston this year. I very much this could be the year for them. It's just it's a testament to what Sampson's done with that program, how he's built it, the way he built it. He doesn't waver in any single way. Everyone on this team is so good defensively. They're so together. It's truly impressive to watch. And I'm on the same token as you though at BYU. It's like I'm fine being on the side where one, I don't think this team is going to shoot that bad again,
Mhm.
and also two, I'm on this side. Um, okay, so we're making a list of teams that maybe BYU can't mess with, and it's Houston.
It's
All right,
Houston. Yeah,
fine.
that's okay.
I can make a list for Illinois right now. There's like 49 teams on there. So,
Yeah,
like, if that's the one team that you don't want to see out of the whole field, then like you're fine. You're fine. In Houston, you're great.
yeah,
You're just
you're fine.
y'all are really good. I didn't mean it to come off as disrespect that we picked against y'all in the preview. Um, I just thought that BYU would, make more threes and things like that, but they did not, and y'all are the upper echelon. I give all credit to you, and you know, uh, nothing really much to say. You got anything else to say about this game?
No, I think you just got to hammer that home, right? Like, I know I said it's not necessarily true that BYU can beat anyone
Hmm.
in the entire country, but I am comfortable saying that they can beat majority of folks. Like you said, there's other teams that have longer lists of teams that they cannot beat than
Hmm.
BYU. Let's put it that way.
Facts. Also, Houston's beating everybody in the country if they play like this. So
Yeah.
there you go. That's fine. You're losing to one of the best teams in the country. So uh, Houston will advance to the title game to take on your Arizona Wildcats. We will have the preview up on the channel for that basketball game. And also finishing up here as we wind down the Big 12 tournament, we will have every preview and recap here on the Supers Media YouTube channel. We got y'all covered. Be sure to tap in.